Okay, great. Welcome to the Semantic Kernel Public Office Hours, APAC or ANZ as well, ANZ edition. This Wednesday, happy, I don't know, we call it Lum Day for some people at least. I just want to make sure that everyone's aware that this is recorded. So we'll be recording this and we'll be posting this to YouTube channel, Alex's YouTube channel. So just be aware of that. And, obviously we don't want to share any kind of sensitive or confidential information. Just a quick reminder on that. And welcome to the second episode of the APAC Semantic Kernel Office Hours. So we've started at about 2 weeks ago, and sorry about the date. So the date is in the US sort of format, 12th September, and we had quite a bit of turnouts, which is fantastic. So we had about almost 30 people in that call. So great to see community sort of banding together and want to learn and curious about semantic kernel. As we briefly highlighted, this is a non-corp type style event. So it's we call it a community happy hour sort of style. So we are basically needing everyone's support to help grow and I guess reach scale the message of semantic kernel. And how we can do this is basically by reaching out to everyone in this call as one way to do it, as well as various other avenues as well. And we are open to for everyone from level 100 and also for people that already build and use semantic kernel and they want to showcase their solution. It's also a good sort of a PR as well, if you will. Get your sort of company logo in there and basically share what you have with the community and then share your learnings as well. So yeah, it's a two-way thing. We want to make it as interactive and discussion rich as possible, so that everyone hopefully get value from this short session. And just to remind everyone, so we do have a Discord channel, so one sort of official channel that we announce for any related events or any questions that you have or any discussions. It's basically in that channel. So in that server, which is Semantic Kernel server, and that's maintained directly by the program and the project team building and maintaining this project. So if you haven't joined, please do so. And that's the short URL as well as the QR code as well. And we do have a number of resources as well. We've already shared it last time in the last office hours. There's so many places where you can get resources, from blogs. We do have learning resources as well in the docs, as well as LinkedIn Learning that's already been curated as well, that you can join and take a look at. We've got repo. Our main repo is at Semantic Kernel, and then we also have one sort of amalgamation of all our Semantic Kernel features into a big sample called Chat Copilot. And we have another one that's I'm going to share as well, and we're going to share around Semantic Memory, and we've already sort of separated that particular sample or that particular project into its own repo. Recordings, you can access recordings there. So it's effectively right now it's going to Alex channel, and there's a lot of videos that's popping up almost every day. So please feel free to check that out as people demonstrating, showcasing the various solutions using semantic kernel. All right, so what we do, we're just going to do a bit of a recap and a bit of a BAU type. We don't have agenda, but what we're thinking of doing is basically just following what US folks are doing around establishing set of cadence with a bunch of regular updates and just highlighting and servicing that and making sure that the community is aware of the new resources that are coming up or that are recently released, as well as any blogs or any kind of public demos or showcase in different parts of semantic kernel features. So first of all, we've got Matthew Bolano, program manager, demonstrating semantic kernel in Promptflow. There was a question in the last session was around, how do we sort of test or do a bit of a consistency test around prompt engineering as well as your semantic kernel. And Matthew is actually explaining that really, really succinctly and very well, and how you can actually leverage Promptflow in your semantic kernel flow as you develop your solutions, because the kind of conventional sort of understanding with semantic kernel and Promptflow, they're kind of two separate competing things, where in this video, it's Matthew actually going through that, where you can actually use both, where you can build your solutions using semantic kernel, and then you kind of visualize that and be able to do some testing using Promptflow, which is very cool. Teresa actually did walk through a Chat Copilot as well, so that's
Did we just, I think, hey everyone, did we just lose Vic? I think, I thought it was just me. Vic has frozen for my screen. Okay, I'm gonna.
Yep, frozen for me as well.
Well, he is frozen. I have the slides as well, so I'll just try and pick up. If Vic comes back online, we'll hand back over to Vic. Bear with me.
I thought I was pushing my computer too hard. I'm glad it was everyone.
Yeah, was that Vic back? No. Vic, are you there, or are you?
What did you do, Vic?
No, he's dropped off. We maybe assume that internet issues. So yeah, what Vic was, I think, was talking about was, I think, was semantic kernel Promptflow, which is definitely seems like a really great. Oh, Vic, are you back?
Yes. Sorry about that.
Okay, cool. Take over.
Cool. It does happen. Yes. So just talking about the walkthrough of Chat Copilot, where Teresa did a deep dive into the inner workings of Chat Copilot. And yeah, definitely check that out. It's a pretty detailed video and talks about kind of the rationale and context on how they build Chat Copilot, and also share a bit of a design and architectures of Chat Copilot.
That Promptflow video really demystified some things for me. Thanks for sharing that yesterday. That's baller.
Yeah, absolutely. Excellent. Agree. The next set of videos as well, it just dropped. There's so many of them within the space of 2 weeks. So plugin questions, exception handling, and more. So that is one of the community members actually did share their solution called Assembly AI, and they also talk about kind of the product itself, as well as kind of the thinking behind the way they build the solution, as well as some questions and discussions around exception handling and how you do exception handling in SK. And that's pretty interesting discussion where you can actually get further feedback from the team within SK. But the TLDR of that is it's better to use the kind of the native exception handling within .NET, but it's still in the process of kind of defined around the best practices around that. So it's still in development. So watch this space. In addition to that, we do have a blog post from Nilesh on updated error handling, where effectively SK comes up with a new set of modules that allows you to build error handling and basically wrap them up within the SK context. And we do have office hours recording as well. So there will be some questions that we're going to be repeating in this, given that I think Alex picked some Australia and sort of APAC and EMEA questions as well. So we're going to be probably touching base on that, but happy for anyone to expand or ask any questions around that, and we can discuss. Cool. The next bit is also another set of videos and blog, Semantic Memory. So I did sort of touch base a little bit about that. So it's on repo. It's basically again, probably you've heard about rack pattern, where retrieval augmentation pattern, and this effectively is a new project or new repo in its own, where it effectively provides you an opinionated way on how you can wrap semantic or memory within your application, whether that's basically retrieving from different data sources, documents, text and videos and so on, and then ingest that to semantic kernel. The other stuff as well around power of pre and post hooks. There's another extension or enable update within the SDK, where it allows you to basically expose pre and post hooks within your semantic functions or native functions. So effectively, you can react and add pre and post functions within that, or hooks within that, and that helps with the event-driven architectures, and it's basically allows you to expand to additional scenarios.
Because I'm sorry, I'll stop you interrupting you. Can I say something about semantic memory? It's just like that's blowing my mind, because with the RAG pattern, getting stuff into kind of a vector database or some kind of like Azure search has been interesting, and this kind of handles it, and like even brings in a whole lot of stuff without even using like form recognizer or some kind of OCR. Like you could just bring in like docx's and PDFs, and it just handles it all. But you can also create your own pipeline for how you want to extract things. So you can maybe extract images out or something and assign them as citations. The big thing about citations, so when you go and do a search, you can say where this came from and potentially even like link to that document. It's mind blowing.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you for that. Yeah, we can sort of open up the repo as well. So just we did kind of change the repo a little bit on Chat Copilot, but we do have I think Semantic Memory is actually it's in its own repo. It's a brand new project, so the team is looking for feedback and so on this. But great to actually hear from you, Simon, on how that's can help your scenarios. But yeah, around this, as you can see here, it's basically making basically embedding or including your memory within the semantic kernel much easier. So, and it has a number of backends that are supported at this stage, around cognitive search, QDrend, content storage, Azure Blobs, as well as queues as well in there. I'm sure that this list will be growing. Cool. All right. Fantastic. So let me just go back and before we sort of start with the first questions, anyone want to raise anything or want to talk about a particular topic they have in mind? You can just open it to the floor.
I did have one question, guys, around the sort of milestones for these repos. because I mean I've just been doing some work with them lately, and obviously it's still all on preview and changing quite a bit. I'm just wondering if you've got a roadmap, rough estimates for delivery of public releases or GA releases of these packages.
Yeah, it's good question, Sam. So we do have published a roadmap within, I think John Maida did that in July, and that is basically cover until the end, probably around the end of October, full release in, or maybe even later than that in the US. And yeah, there's basically a bunch of features in here. I'll probably paste in the link later on. But yeah, the idea is that this is a open source project. This is a community project, which means that if you kind of require for example, like SLA or support or anything like that, it's all based on community, right? So basically, it's work by way of that. Discord is one of the channels to do it, and as well as via GitHub. Dan, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I was going to say I think Alex talked about the version 1.0 release date in the last office hour, the last US office hours, the one last week, and I think he said it was imminent 1.0 release for Semantic Kernel, not for memory, but for kernel. So maybe it could be worth going back and reviewing that that one on the 20th, I think it was, or sorry, 19th or 21st for whatever last week's one. He did. I'll see if I can dig it out the time period, but he did say, yeah, that was coming up not too long away, which is why the team was so busy, and we're not seeing a lot of new features because the team are really getting ready for that 1.0 release. So I'll see if I can dig that out for you.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
I think Simon just did a link to submit a link to the team as well. So thanks, Simon, for sharing.
Yeah, most of those repos have got the project in this. For a more detailed roadmap, you can see when they're planning on dropping certain parts.
Yeah, just open that as well. Cool.
But yeah, they're moving pretty fast because I was just seeing other stuff on other branches, and they're going, oh, cool, I'm jumping over to that, and then like the next day they merge it into main. It's like, oh, back over to main. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and they have to kind of prioritize different requests and so on from the community. But yeah, it's definitely imminent. Great question, Sam. Thank you for that. Cool.
Thanks,
so let's, interest of time, we'll move on. All right, so let's go through the first questions. The first question that we have from the community, part of different set of questions that we have. This is from Glenn, and the question is around data and the way they process relational data. So let me just read that out. So analyzing and summarizing sizable quantities of regularly changing relational data, not static text content, using semantic kernel AI models. Many examples I've seen in space center on preloading large quantities of static text into a vector database, then running a semantic search on the vector database first to provide context for AI model calls. My use case is more dynamic, as the contextual data needs to be queried at runtime from a relational database, then processed through AI models to provide a mathematically accurate analysis and summation. Great question. And this is something that was discussed as well in the US office hours. And the things that we just discussed around semantic memories will potentially will cover that scenario. So they've already shared that long-term vision of semantic memory is to be able to interact with a dynamic set data. So basically, being able to sort of grab up-to-date context for you to be able to feed into LLMs. But it's not supported yet at the moment. So it's more a little bit of set vision for that project, but certainly encourage for you to kind of raise issues or surface that, maybe even open up a GitHub issue in there. And I don't know if Glenn is around as well on the call, but we can expand that as well. No, okay. And the other thing as well is use some sort of data framework or data frame. In for example, in .NET we have data frame or pandas in Python. Might be something that you can do where you can preload some data and create some sort of column store object within your application, and then interact with that and change the data set as you sort of process and move to different steps in your functions. At the moment, though, basically, it has to be potentially sort of a combination of different tool sets. Utilizing a RAG pattern, using cognitive search, where you can index data and provide contextual data for you, and that is a pretty good starting point. But yeah, this stage, that is probably the approach that can be tried.
Oh, can we crack at this one, Vic? I was thinking about it a lot, and that's the thing with like text, and ingesting PDFs and Word documents and stuff is that works really well with like a vector search, right? Like the metadata is the content, right? And so it knows what to go and get and what to go and stuff into the prompt and provide an answer. But when, like, Glenn's actually one of the partners I'm working with, so I'll go talk to him separately. But if you're going hitting like a database or hitting an Excel spreadsheet or CSV or something, you want to go query from that, then that's when you can really use the power of the semantic kernel itself and say, well, use some kind of metadata or some kind of thing to figure out what skill to use, and then actually use something like NL to SQL or something to actually go and actually query it at runtime and inject that back into the answer. So you can just use the power of semantic kernel to figure out whether this is a thing I need to go to the vector database for and retrieve an answer, or actually at runtime go and get the information and for the still a desired result of producing an answer back to the user.
Yeah, good thought. Yeah, good suggestion. Absolutely. Thanks, Simon. And that's it's currently sort of a space that's in development as well. That's combination of tools and so on. That's probably the way we're going ahead with it. But yeah, plan is such a critical piece in this whole thing. Yeah. Awesome. The next question that we have, Dan, do you want to take this, or do you want me to read it and then you can take it?
Well, I'm sure. I invite everyone to throw in thoughts and ideas. Yeah, this was another one that was covered in the US session as well. So from JK, we've built several Azure bots, Google Dialogflow bots, and ChatGPT bots, and want to see how we can transform them into semantic kernel. And got a number of questions here. So he's interested in, or he or she is interested in. So what I'm interested in, MVP for checking calendar and booking can be mock service, but ideally Microsoft Dynamics. Number 2 is email flow, gather information from 1 to 3 web APIs, show what's going on to be sent to whom and send an email. And number 3, using various knowledge bases to answer a question, combining 3 and 2. So I think these are probably your questions around, hey, how do I use SK? Is SK the right tool for solving these particular challenges, right? That's my take on this. And how would you use SK to solve each of them? And one thing that was also talked about is Bot Framework, I think, which is really more of an interface or an integration piece between a bot and well, it also provides the flow for the bot, but an integration between a back-end bot service and a front-end UI like Slack or Teams or whatever it is, right? So there's a couple of pieces here. But Vic, do you want to take a crack at some of these?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so just gonna open up the DevBot framework as well, and that was definitely discussed in the US office hours. So it's a pretty capable bot framework that can interact with various set of services. And surprisingly, we sort of talked about it internally as well, about how we haven't really thought about this. While we actually have this in our disposal within Microsoft, we have that Microsoft Bot framework. And the great thing about this solution is that, as you can see, it just opens up various possibilities where you can interact with different data sources. So effectively, you can build a bot using this bot framework as your kind of UI, and you can then expose it to your applications, right? So you can deploy it to even like third-party services, like potentially Facebook or some other applications that you have in mind, and also you can also expose it obviously in the first-party applications like Teams, using the bot framework. And the great thing about this is that you can talk to any backend, which is you can integrate that with Chat Copilot. So theoretically, you can use bot framework as your UI and then integrate that to Chat Copilot to basically get your response. So Chat Copilot becomes your backend, and then the bot framework bot effectively becomes your kind of the front end, and you can just expand this and extend it to various services.
And the other questions were sort of more traditional. Would SK be a good fit for, say, it looked like a planner there, right? There was multiple steps, either prompt chaining or implementing using a planner where you define a function that could send an email, and you would then say, hey, create a plan to send me whatever the user was trying to achieve, or the goal for the user. What was it? Yeah, gather information from 1 to 3 APIs, show what was going on, sent to whom, and then send an email, right? That does sound like very much like a plan. But if the user ask is very much the same, right? If it's always calling the same 1 to 3 APIs, it's always going to be sending the same email. It might just be simple enough to say, well, if the user ask is always the same, or if it's not being kicked off from say a chat scenario, we could just chain all that together using prompt chain, or we could, but if this was a user ask that was always going to be different, the user might ask for different things, then maybe, we'd just use a sequential planner or something like that.
Yeah.
And of course, number 3 is RAG pattern, right? That looks like a RAG pattern with multiple memory stores, but of course you wouldn't necessarily use multiple memory stores. You would build an index across multiple memory stores. So you'd have a cognitive search vector index that had the sources of data ingested from multiple data stores. You wouldn't necessarily have 3 cognitive search indexes, one for each store. Or that is probably might be a scenario that the semantic memory is enabling, but if you look at how semantic index is being used for, say, M365 Copilot, they build, there is one index across the entire organization, and all sources of data are put into it. And yes, you could potentially use other sources of data, and you might have, as Simon was talking about, dynamic data stores. You might be querying databases and things like that. And then the first question is kind of interesting, which is the MVP for checking calendar and bookings from, say, a service like Dynamics. How do you do that, Vic?
Yeah, so that one is sounds like a plugin comes into play. Basically building some sort of plugin that can talk using MS Graph. So obviously, Chat Copilot has that built-in capability in there. And in terms of planner, it could be a straightforward sort of plan where you don't actually need to, because it's actually like almost like what they say, it's like form filling type interaction. So you can actually just use action plan even to do that. Just a single step predefined that does checking of a calendar, and then the next step might be doing booking and so on. Yeah.
Because we've already got connectors into things like Dynamics, right? Power Apps connectors. I mean, could they? I'm kind of asking a question I already know the answer to, but could the planner be exposed or given access to those functions or those APIs to call and request that information?
Yeah, is JK around? I guess it would be good to actually talk about that Microsoft Dynamics requirement, because it's more if you build like something like Logic App and so on, you could definitely integrate that as well. Yeah. JK, are you online? Be good to expand that. But yeah, I came across this sort of project that again, I'm not sure whether I should share it now, but where it basically handles sort of a planning for your schedule, I guess schedule for your day, and checking your calendar, and then provide some summary and suggestions around your kind of when you should do certain tasks or certain activities, and that's a pretty cool feature that you can definitely do within Semantic Kernel.
Oh, like you should share that. That'd be cool.
Yeah. Hopefully, I'll just need to get permission first for doing that. Yeah. So moving on to the next one. This one, it seems to be an issue that's already solved. So I guess I'm not sure if John Ma is online, but the question here is that there's an issue with the import plans feature. There's a PR that's already been raised, and it's already merged as well. So that issue seems to be already fixed. So I guess the question is whether, with the issue not fixed, whether that's possible to be run, but now it's probably not relevant anymore. But yeah, there's a question here around, what type of planner that is better to use with imported plans. Good question. I think, basically, as you aware, there's 4 at the moment set of planner types. It's got basic planner, pretty simple version of sequential planner that strings together kind of functions, and then action planner, just plan with a single step, and then sequential planner, a plan with a series of steps, and it's more of a complex sort of scenario that might be that you need to sort of string together different inputs and outputs, and then stepwise planner is the one that incrementally perform different set of steps, and then it observes any results before performing the next step. So I'm not sure exactly what you're after here in terms of kind of what you're planning to do. Are you looking at evaluating the plan before you execute them, or do you just want to be able to make it visible for you to see what plan that's going to be executed? Both of them are feasible, as in like any plan, you can expose them within the chat copilot. Whereas if you need to basically evaluate your plan and perform different steps, then potentially stepwise planner might be a good option. let me share
So-
this.
Vic, quick question. What's the output of a plan? When you go and create a plan, you say, right, go execute this plan for me. Go execute a stepwise planner. What's the output of a plan? What actually gets created?
Yeah, good. Yeah, so basically, what you have, it depends on the kind of the plan here. So here's an example, right? So you can create a set of functions, a set of functions in the plugin, and you have different functions in here, and effectively the plan is basically a set of steps that you get out of that planner, and that may involve execution of different functions within a plugin, right? So in this case, right, so we have an example of math plugin where it has different different functions. I think this one is probably native functions. This one, and then you instantiate your kernel. You add the plugin, and then you create the planner. So once you instantiate that planner, then you execute and then you create a plan for the ask. So basically, this is the ask. It's, as we know, LLM is a bit tricky with solving maths. And here's basically when you execute the plan, you get the results of that based on the question that you ask after calling different set of functions.
So what's really interesting with this is when you create that plan async, what the model is actually returning back is XML. So the plan is essentially saying, go create me a plan, but give it to me in a very, very specific format so that I can deserialize that back into a way that I can then store that plan, right? Because that's the problem the user is talking about, is they've created an export of the plan, because once the plan's represented as an XML string, you can store that, you can save that plan, so you could potentially rerun it, you could run it with different inputs, you could do a whole lot of stuff. So that once the plan's in place, you can then use that as a sort of a template. And I think the issue was you could export the plan, but the import of planning, the import of a plan wasn't working. And I'm wondering if the user is saying, when I re-import a plan, say I've created a step, used a stepwise planner object and created that plan, and can I, what is the best planner type of planner I should re-import that plan back in? And can I, if I've re-imported that plan, can I go and view that plan again? Or can I see what plans have been imported? That's my understanding. And I think the question was based around this PR being merged, and now that the PR has been merged, I think the answer is yes, but I would check. There was the question around whether you could or should import a plan generated from one type of planner into another planner. That I don't know. Has anyone tried that? Is that actually is that a thing you would recommending doing, or should you, if you created a stepwise planner, you've exported it, then you re-importing it, you should re-import it back into the stepwise planner? Is anyone importing or exporting plans? It would be a question.
Yeah, good question. Yeah.
Look, you're not trying exporting PowerShell plans, mate?
PowerShell
Not
planner,
yet.
that's it's also available, right? So PowerShell planner, there is a video on that.
Yeah, and actually, as pointed out in the chat, Chat Copilot can import and export out plans, and you can actually go and see the plan. You can see the raw plan, so you can actually see the breakdown of the XML that is generated. And it's kind of interesting, even though it's kind of peeking under the hood that you shouldn't necessarily need to look at, but it's good to know. Have a look at the prompt that is used to generate a plan, generate a stepwise plan, and it does. They're non-trivial prompts. There's a lot of work that goes into those.
I got a question for you. In my eternal struggle to figure out when to use so semantic kernel to handle kind of chaining, or whether you use something like Promptflow. But yeah, looking at there's actually a part of the Promptflow extension in VS Code. I'll just throw in the chat. There's a screenshot. Is that amazing? I think it's pretty cool. It's like it's getting to kind of like that weights and metrics kind of tool, or whatever, with our LLM chain, but it's like if you look, is there anything like that for the planner, like so you can actually see the internally how it's made decisions, or
That's a good question. I mean, obviously there's the Visual Studio SK plugin, which does allow you to do some simple things. It's great for comparing model output, like prompt outputs. I like to try a different model, but it doesn't sort of visualize planners in this way. But you can look at the raw output and sort of get a gist. It sounds like a useful project to be able to visualize the output of a plan.
Yeah.
Would it be generic? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's already something that was demonstrated in that Promptflow video, where one of the, I guess, key challenges is around testing your plugins and planners, and it's always manual process where you need to ask different things in as part of your prompt, and just basically making sure that it doesn't hallucinate and making sure that it picks the right plans and so on. Whereas with Promptflow, I think that's something that can be, I guess, making it a bit easier for you to test it within that. So, and Promptflow, as you pointed out, it can be done or can be accessed locally using that extension, and you can also run it in Azure Studio as well.
Because I'd love the dream is that I can grab logging from like a production or a test environment and pull it down and then visualize it in this, so that I can see how my actual planner and stuff is running in prod. That'd be a dream.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic set of discussions for sure for this one. I'm not sure if John Mai is online. In for you to test it again and see if you've got any problems with importing plans and visualizing it. And certainly using Promptflow might be a good way to visualize that.
What's a good way to log the plans? Because there was a lot of changes and work has been done on making Semantic Kernel more observable and improving that logging story. And there's you can do if you looked at what is the best way to log plans and how do you do it safely? Because we all know don't log sensitive information. Do plans contain sensitive information? That would be, I'd like to, potentially they would. But yeah, how would you go about logging those?
Yeah, good question. I probably need to take a look at it and understand what sort of logs that are noted within there. There must be different set of logging. I'm not sure if anyone from the community can share.
I think
there's the SK logger, so and that's kind of that stuff's all kind of surfaced through. Once again, it's in that video from Alex. You see a lot where they're using the SK logger to dump out trace information stuff that's then surfaceable in that extension that I posted a screenshot of.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that is something.
Where would you log it to? Where would you log it to? You just check it into Azure Monitor, App Insights. That would be, yeah, it'd be an interesting question. I haven't looked into that in detail.
Yeah,
I guess the video. I guess the stuff I would look at is basically just log it to the file system, but I guess that's not. But yeah, once again, that's part of that thing the question I have is like, if you're using that logger and you could actually have the log destinations being as your monitor or something, can you then go and pull that stuff back into that visualization tool? Because that'd be the bomb.
Does that visualize that extension? I don't know. Does that visualize the actual plan, or just visualizes the flow? So because you know, in that example of Promptflow, there's sort of one box that's just the semantic kernel piece. Does it actually allow you to go down to the next level of detail and say semantic kernel then made a call to semantic memory and pulled that information back, and then ran this, created this plan and then invoked the plan, and that plan was then going and calling these plugins? Do you know if that extension is visualizing that piece, or just the outside flow? Hey, the user asks a question, we need to do. Yeah, I mean, that would be interesting. I think we need to find. I think that would be great to almost go into maybe a topic for a future session, office hours. Actually, go into how do you operate this in production at scale? Because
because what you're kind of asking for is like for the logging and that visualization tool and app insights to have a baby. And the baby's amazing.
Yeah, I would love. I think that would be great. I mean, having some way of meaningfully presenting this back to someone who's now got to say, this is in production and I need to figure out if something's going wrong. That would be super useful. And I think the tools are all there, the pieces are there. We just we don't have the best view on what is the best way to glue them all together to make that work.
Yeah, spot on. I think what I can see here is that it has some metrics that you can actually sort of grab out of the plan. So as you run, your testing, you can basically show some metrics from that, and basically can provide a level of accuracy and error rate. I'm not sure how they sort of derive from that, but in this example here, I'll show you. It's actually showing that how well your flow is performing, and then you can then see what sort of input prediction and then output score and so on in here. But yeah, it's probably not as providing the kind of the breakdown of your plans and how that kind of choose the right plan that it actually executes. But
I
yeah,
guess you
it's
could I mean, if you had to do it yourself, you could just take the deserialized version of the plan and put it straight out, because you can export the plan as, I think you can get a JSON version of the plan and put that in.
Yeah, so what you're showing on the screen is it's providing, it shows you the output of it's basically a unit testing framework for your prompt, and you're saying, oh, here's 10 different questions, and then you provide like the truth, and then there's another kind of screenshot where I can probably put it on the screen, where it shows you'll have the right answer, and they're both in English, right? So what's the best thing to process that? LLM, and then it actually goes and compares the answer that was given and the right answer, and then it provides that screenshot there where it gives the actual output score, like was it right, was it wrong, whatever, and then that can be all rolled up into some kind of accuracy score.
Yeah. So that would be scoring the model, right? That's scoring the model performance. And I guess, how would you score a planner? Would be the next level down.
Well, that thing there is actually like I've got to stop saying in that video. It's like that's the only thing I do. I just watch that video. And it's they're talking. It's doing the math plugin, and like and saying, well, how is it? Has the planner figure out how to go and what kind of function to apply to a specific question? So there's actually multiple steps in that planner that includes that math plugin. So it's not just scoring the LLM, it's scoring the actual plan itself. and then how it was able to recognize what the question was, pick the right plugin, and then come up with an answer.
Right, gotcha.
Yeah, so it's basically kind of aggregation of all the flow that you have, including all the planners. But yeah, I mean, probably the breakdown
100%.
of it, is something that we need to check if there's any type of I guess feature item that's planned. Cool. I'm just going back to kind of everyone here, just wondering if anyone have any specific questions around this, or perhaps any recent sort of experimentation that you had around Promptflow.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Anyway.
We got you.
Hey, so I was just wondering, I don't know if there's already something there and I just haven't found it yet, or if there's different ways to do it, but one thing that well, I see a lot of people struggle with is returning structured responses from the LLM and actually parsing them into something that you can program against. And I was wondering if that's something that like Semantic Kernel was going to like address, or if there's plans to do that, or if it's something that we should look at other tools to do, or like what's that look like?
Yeah, what sort of data sources that you grabbing data from? When is that
no,
from?
this is basically taking responses from the LLM and then using that like as a JSON, whatever sort of structure it is,
Yeah.
something that I can
Yeah.
then use in my model and just say I wanted to return a list of items and a title and a description, all this sort of stuff. How do I
Yeah.
actually get what, like, because I've seen people do it in XML, JSON, like YAML. Like, I don't know what best practice is, and I don't know if that's something that like a tool needs to solve, because it just seems weird to be writing all this like manual like deserialization code, like when it would be good to have it like as a common thing that people have actually like work on together.
XML is so 1994.
Don't,
Yeah.
I'll add one thing to this. So this is where this has been a problem for a long time with the models. You know, you give them an example of the JSON it should output, and it sometimes gets it wrong. This is where functions, when I say functions, this is where ChatGPT functions come in. So this is where they have extended the API for GPT-3.5 Turbo 0613 and GPT-4 to have a new structure in there, which allows you to formally specify this is a function that exists, or this is an output that exists, and here's how I want you to, and what that will ensure the model does is return a very formalized output. But if you aren't able to use those, for example, you're using an older model, using, you know, say DaVinci 003, you can't make use of those. So sometimes it's a little bit of, you have to wrap around a retry mechanism to say, does this work or not? And if it doesn't, I'll try it again, because it's sometimes it'll generally get it right again at the second time. The other thing I've been doing is, rather than passing in a JSON structure and saying, this is what I want you to make it look like, I actually give it a C# object, a class definition in the prompt, and say, I want, and give it comments and, you know, and the actual specifications. And I say, rather than giving me JSON, give me JSON that can be deserialized into this specific class. And that tends to work more reliably. It's still not 100% reliable, but it's better than saying, here's a description of some JSON, or here's an example of some JSON, because these models are really good at understanding code. And yeah, so C#, yeah, so I do that. I've got an example I can post in the chat.
Awesome, that's great.
And can you do the functions with Semantic Kernel?
Yeah, there is a PR in play. it's on the roadmap. It is. I think the PR is open, is it?
And Azure AI, does that support the functions yet?
The APIs do. So yes,
Okay.
they do. So for 0613, if a GPT-3.5 Turbo 0613 and GPT-4, it does support those APIs do exist. I think they might be preview. I'll drop the link. Semantic Kernel will support it. So it'll be more that Semantic Kernel will be aware that these exist and will leverage them. But if you're calling directly, you'll sort of need to do that. So I haven't taken a look at that in huge detail, but I'll chuck some links.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see. Probably you need to see if there's a support function calling. Yeah, it's currently open. I'll check in the link as well. But yeah. Thanks for that. Just interest of time, we've got 3 minutes. So rather than us sort of talking about another set of questions, just want to open up to the floor. If anyone wants to discuss anything last minute, otherwise I'll go to the next question. Okay, so I guess this is the last one that I have, and there's another one that's already discussed in the office hour session. How to connect SK with an existing cognitive search index. So I think we've already discussed that. It's the using rack sort of pattern where you can, or you can use also semantic memory, where it's provide that framework for you to do that. What is the best way to keep an Azure deployment updated with the latest SK in GitHub? So yeah, it was also discussed as well in the office hour session, US office hour session. It is a pretty common problem with anyone that's deploying any dependencies and so on. And one approach might be using things like DependBot, where it automatically kind of pull for the latest packages for your application. And that's not only applicable to SK, but any application really. And the last one, possible to use Teams app as the front end to SK Copilot. Yes, we talked about that. We touch base around using Bot Framework as a way for you to build the UI for that, and then integrate that to Chat Copilot. The product team is looking into creating a POC for that proof of concept, where at a high level it effectively exactly does that. So basically build a bot framework bot and then talks to Chat Copilot in the backend to provide the right responses. And that bot can then be deployed to Teams. Okay, all right, so that's
I was just to say one really quick thing on that. Like, it's not just the updating of keeping SK up to date. It's also then semantic memory. Like, how does it? If it's using queues and blob storage and search, like the search service, like it can be a bit of a challenge to that when you want to kind of clear all the state so you can go again. So I just got this litany of like PowerShell scripts and stuff that I can go run and like wipe it all out and go again. And so I've somehow got to share that stuff because there's been hours of just trying to get it so I can get back to clean and go again. Every time something they go and change the way that the semantic memory or something's working.
Yeah, thank you for that. Probably in the next session might be able to get you to showcase that. Simon can talk about that.
Cheers.
Fantastic. So we're at the top of the hour, and I guess it's great for thanks for everyone for providing input and contributing and discussing about Semantic Kernel and your use cases. Again, if just a quick reminder, you can fill in the form if you have any specific questions that you want to raise, and we can talk about it here, as well as if you have anything you want to demo or showcase, we're more than happy to listen and get you to showcase what you're doing with SK, and we can learn from you as well. Fantastic. Thanks, everyone. That's all for today, and I'll see you all in about 2 weeks. And thanks, everyone, for the input.
I had a quick question. Sorry to interrupt. Where's
Oh,
the
sorry,
link for the... Sorry, you mentioned that there's like a link to submit questions.
Oh, yes.
Do you have that handy?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. I just joined the Discord this week, actually.
Yeah. I'll
Awesome.
share that in the chat that we
Okay,
can
thank you.
take a look at that. Yeah. Thank you, Emil. Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks, Vic.
Thank you.